and welcome to the Partnership Publishing podcast. I'm Florence Hanneth, and I'm the director here at Partnership Publishing. And today we are very, very grateful and very excited to be having the conversation with our debut author of Magic Moon Publishing, Al King. Welcome.
Well, thank you very much, Florence, and a very good morning to you.
No, honestly, it's very exciting to be having this conversation. For those that are listening and watching and don't know, Al King is a debut author of his title, The Green Man. Congratulations, Al. Oh, there it
Thank
is,
you.
and it looks beautiful. Wow. Again, for those that are watching, um, we have a little preview there of The Green Man. So, for listeners and people that are watching us today, maybe start by introducing yourself and starting at the beginning where the idea for the Green Man first come from.
Yes. Well, as you said, I'm Alistair Walker King, born in Lincolnshire at RAF Nocton Hall in 1965, son of an airman and a farmer's daughter, and subsequently sort of raised on various RAF bases, mainly in East Anglia and particularly Lincolnshire, and went to school there as well. Mum's side of the family come from the Witham Valley down near Carnton Mall and Bassingham, and they used to like farm around there. So I grew up in those villages, walking around those villages, cycling around those villages.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just used to living off local seasonal organic produce,
Mm.
and whatever was growing on the trees, whatever was coming out the ground.
Yeah.
Granddad would be out basically harvesting it, while Grandma, who was a
Wow.
proper sort of farmhouse cook, would be preparing something, and I would just be running around, reading books, painting figurines,
Wow.
designing dungeons for Dungeons and Dragons. And then, when the weather permitted, I'd be out on my bike walking about. And Grandad was one of three brothers. One of them was lived up in Colby, so we would regularly go from Bassingham
Mm.
up to Navenby and then on to Colby. And as you probably know, there's a link road between the A607 and the A15 called Green Man Lane.
Mm.
And Grandad used to talk about Green Man, and at the end of it, you've got Green Man Wood. So anyway, somehow all of these things, I guess, just sort of like were absorbed, and
Wow.
then one leaves the county to to pursue a career, and then eventually, when I had downtime, I would be coming back to see my mum, who's still in Lincoln, um, and having sort of left the county and perhaps disconnected with it a little for a little while, going back to it, and particularly coming up from the south, because typically I'd be coming up from London, I'd get to Colstor's roundabout as was, and then take the High Dyke and cut across, and then do Ancaster and coming that way. And as soon as I was getting close to Lincoln, round about that last stretch from Leadenham to Wellingborough, when you can start to see down into the Trent Valley, it's like suddenly all this stuff was pinging off in my head, and one time I chose to do this long distance walkway from Dorset right the way up to Lincolnshire, and it follows the Macmillan Way, then the Jurassic Way, and then the Viking Way. And for the last stretch of the Viking Way, um, you're basically walking on the pedestrian bit of the High Dyke here. And I crossed Green Man Lane, and it was like, suddenly everything came together.
Wow.
And because you've got time when you're walking, and there's a rhythm to the walk, didum didum, which I think, just automatically suggests words or song or poetry without even realizing it, the sort of author within, which you've helped me unlock, thank you, Magic Moon, um, began to think about, maybe there's a book. They say that there's a book in everyone. Maybe there's a book about a young lad walking in Lincolnshire on Lincolnshire lanes, bumping into this pagan, mythic, folklore being who tells you about seasons and cycles and celebrates good natural produce from Lincolnshire. So, yeah, and here we are. That's basically what happened as a result of all that.
Wow. Honestly, it's truly incredible. And I think, you know, first time learning some of those items, but when we first met and you shared that childhood, that experience and the nature and just having that incredible opportunity that, potentially you actually favored more than most. Sometimes you can have an opportunity and not necessarily accept that it is, and feel like, oh, kind of too out in the sticks, I need to kind of get away. But you feel that I think it's always been in you, hasn't it? That there's just that heritage and just that knowing of how, yeah, seasonally and that rhythm of nature, I think you kind of draw upon so
Yeah.
vividly and yeah, in your writing especially.
Well, thank you. I mean, the irony is perhaps that I had to leave the county to fully appreciate what I'd had,
Mm, mm,
on my doorstep the whole time. Perhaps
mm,
there was an element of taking it for granted, although, I was never dismissive or whingy about it. But,
mm.
going away, and it's not like other places aren't as nice, but,
No.
home is home, and perhaps we underestimate the power of and the
Mm,
influence that, the landscape and the culture and the environment has on
mm,
your formative years. So it was leaving the county for university and then my career and then coming back, which I
mm.
think made me realize, oh wow, this place is really quite special. I
Yeah.
should feel blessed to have come from here. And then gradually, eventually finding, a way of honoring that and celebrating that. And so the Green Man, hopefully the start of a few more ways of celebrating this wonderful county of Lincolnshire, and indeed, East Midlands as a region, and perhaps even further beyond into the ancient kingdom of Mercia, but more on that later.
Yeah. Thank you. I know it's all incredibly excited and as you say, and rightly so, the story is deeply, deeply rooted in Lincolnshire, the land, the seasons, even the dialect.
Yes,
Um, Basically, Albert's. So maybe we should talk about the main characters a little. Would you like
yeah,
to maybe
please do.
share,
Absolutely.
yeah, maybe share a little about who they are and who we meet along the way?
Okay, then. So, well, Albert's broadly based on me, but he's slightly removed to make him a little bit nicer and a little bit cuter and a little bit more innocent. But yeah, effectively, Albert's me, and it's set, I suppose, roughly in the sort of mid late 70s, as I
Mm,
imagine it. But I don't make the timeline clear, just
mm,
so I've got a bit more freedom. Um, and yeah, he lives in Lincoln, and every Christmas, Easter, summer holiday, and half term in between, weather permitting, he's out on the bike up the hill, up
yeah.
onto the high dike, because that's when things start to get interesting. Once you get out of the city into the countryside, the traffic stops and you can hear nature, you can hear the birds. And so, yeah, then it was a question of, they say, write what you know. So, yes, I know those villages along the A607. I know the High Dyke and I know the Witham Valley. And so, yeah, I wanted to sort of celebrate in all the places that I had a connection with. So Bassingham, Carlton and Moorland, Skellingthorpe, Old Wood, the High Dyke,
Mm,
the Bowthorpe Oak. We've got the largest oak in Europe is in the county of Lincolnshire. I wanted to sort of like get that in there. The River Witham, flowing through through all of it. I hadn't really realised just how much the Witham was important. It flows through Bassingham.
mm,
It flows through Lincoln, it flows through Grantham, where I was at school at the King's School, and it's like so. I had to get the source of the Witham in there.
mm,
Um, my mum Bob and her partner, sorry, my mum and her partner Bob, they've been sending me books on Lincolnshire every sort of Christmas and
mm,
birthday for several
mm,
years. So I've got one in the Lincolnshire dialect. I wanted to get that in there as well. So I thought it was appropriate that the Green Man should use a little bit of dialect.
mm.
And the county's got its own song, the Lincolnshire Poacher,
Yeah.
which you don't hear enough of. So I thought,
No.
yeah, let's rewrite that as if,
Yeah.
as if the Green, like a more ancient version that we don't
Yeah.
know about, that the Green Man may have picked up on.
Mm,
So, Albert goes to correct him. The first when we meet the Green Man, we hear him before we see him, and you can hear
that's yeah. Yeah.
and Albert, he's a little nervous at first, but once he gets comfortable with the Green Man, he says, "Look, they're the wrong words." And then the Green Man has to explain, actually, these are the right words,
Yeah.
but they're from an ancient time. So
Yeah.
I don't know. At this point, I'm lost in the fiction, and I'm
Oh,
realizing that
yeah.
this is my book. I can do anything I want. I know who the characters are. I've got there's Albert based on me. There's the Green Man. He's
Mm,
got his two familiars,
mm,
right? Volley the Vole.
Yeah,
Yeah, could have spent more time on the name, but why bother? Volley's great. Volley does the ground reconnaissance.
yeah,
And then Buzz, the buzzard, again,
yeah,
why overcomplicate things? Buzz is like aerial reconnaissance. And so you've then got this sort of like group who are just walking through the countryside.
yeah,
As you pointed out earlier, I came up with the idea of mainly because out on the terrace here, I have my barbecues in the summer. I've got like the pagan calendar on a bit of round wood.
yeah.
So I'm always looking at what season we're in. And I thought,
Mhm.
yeah, why don't we have each chapter in a season? So then I was thinking, I got the school calendar out, I was trying to work out exactly which season the different holidays fell in. I mean, it's easy to do for Christmas, obviously, and for
Yes,
Easter and
yeah.
summer, but for the half terms, oh, is Easter half term in Beltane or is it in, all that kind of stuff.
Yes,
Anyway,
yeah.
so and then, once I'd got the sort of structure and the settings,
Mm,
all I needed was a little bit more. And I'd got the core characters, the big four, if you like, Albert, the Green Man, Volley, and Buzz.
mm,
And then just sort of try, and then yeah, the Lincolnshire poacher. Okay, why can't he actually exist? Why can't he manifest?
mm.
As like another pagan sort of like hero from folklore on the walk. So brought him into the picture as well. And then of course, there's Old Man Winter and Mycelia. And I think Mycelia is my favorite one.
I know, I know. Honestly, when we read it here as a team, I mean, now, we work with the universe, everything's energy. And so when we received
Absolutely.
a submission like this, we would just, and we're in Lincolnshire, there seemed to be such a synergy. We genuinely hadn't come across a submission like it. And it
Wow.
aligns so much with what we truly believe in and value, but also love so dearly that heritage, that cultural element, the Celtic calendar, and that structure of the story that you so rightly have kind of then formed. It just fits so perfectly with delivering the heart of the message, I feel, of the whole entirety of the story. You weave like science and spirit beautifully. So ideas like the wood wide web
Yeah.
and like nature's hidden communication. How did you find that? Like where that
Well,
came
look, thank you for being so supportive and positive in this process, Florence. I mean, you've got to remember, I still can't take the idea that I'm actually an author seriously yet because I know you published my book and you think it's all right and that's great and I love it and I'm my background is science, right? I
from?
studied A-level biology, chemistry, and physics, then went on to do anatomy, physiology, and psychology. And it's like I'm a scientist, and yes, I suppose. I mean, I wasn't a brilliant scientist, so I didn't go into science, and I did A-level art as well, and always used to like build models and paint things, So I had a creative side to it, but I'd never put pen to paper, before. I mean, I'm great in conversation. I love debate. I can stand up and talk. But writing stuff down, the discipline of it, and my benchmarks would be Tolkien, Peake, and Pullman. It's like, boom, they're proper authors, right? They build entire words. Their characters are unbelievable. I mean, mine are sort of like paper thin. They're just kind of like vehicles to get people out into the landscape to enjoy, the really good stuff.
That's
So
so needed, isn't it, as
it
well?
is, yeah. But yeah, when I I don't know when we learnt as a culture about the Wood Wide Web, the mycelium layer, but I was always into on your autumn walks noticing fungi
Mm,
and mushrooms and toadstools and looking at them and going wow, and I knew where they fit in terms of taxonomy
mm,
because A-level biology is big on taxonomy, and although we've had to reclassify things as we learn more about the natural world, I just wanted to find a way of getting that in there. And then when I thought about turning that, but I thought, yeah, you just tapping into the mycelium layer, the wood wide web, is one thing, but what if it manifests in the form of a spirit, a bit like Old Man Winter has, a bit like the Green Man has? And then I thought mycelia, which does
mm.
sound like a lady's name.
Yeah.
And at that point, I had a little chill and I thought, oh,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
onto something here. I've got mycelia. And then you can talk to the Wood Wide Web through the
yeah.
spiritual
I see.
manifestation of it, and you
Yeah,
can actually have a chat with her.
yeah,
So yeah, I was really thrilled when I came up with mycelia. And then when you picked up on it and reflect it back, it's just like, wow, yeah, she is special because
yeah.
now she exists. It's like she exists forever. She's
Oh
out
yeah,
there. The genie is out of the bottle for us. We
yeah.
have unleashed this thing,
Yes, we
and
have.
I mean, because of your support and the response we're getting to this, I have now got, multiple projects on the go at various stages of development. And yes, my Celia appears in more than one of them, as does Jack the Green Man. So, boom, yes, you've
It's
unleashed something.
well, you have we've supported the vision,
You
hopefully,
have, brilliantly.
in the best way. So we've kind of touched on briefly in this conversation, the quite kind of environmental message throughout. I think it's naturally there because there's a love for the land. Um, I guess mainly it's more about how we restore that balance.
Yes.
Yeah, what would that message be if you would like anyone to take anything from the book?
Get out and walk. It's that simple.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
that's another thing as well. My middle name is Walker, and at the end of the book, after a brief discussion with you, I do a little acknowledgement to like the Walker family, which is a common Lincolnshire surname, along with many other surnames that are to do with like working the land, in this case, processing wool, walking around, tramping away in great vats of wool in sheep shoeing, basically, to
Yeah.
sort of like compress it all down. But the message is get out and walk. I mean, I spent a lot of my career in the computer and video games industry. A lot of, and there's a lot of gaming for good projects, out there.
Mm,
But I think that perhaps there's a little bit too much technology in
mm,
our lives,
yeah.
and it tends to sort of like control us rather than the other way around. It should be there for our convenience,
Mm,
and people are worried about screen time, and I think yet balance, which is a profoundly important concept in terms of, yin yang, the nature of the cosmos, all that, but
yeah.
also on a daily basis, there should be a little bit of everything in there,
Yeah.
including getting out for a walk, some fresh air,
Yeah.
observing a few natural phenomenon. And I'm not saying, phones are bad, video games are bad. They can be tremendously empowering mediums and devices, but yeah, one of I started writing this book in lockdown, and I was reading at the time or hearing at the time about how a lot of people, because they couldn't go into the school or the office,
Mhm.
they were just going out in their local parks or walking out in the local fields, and suddenly people are going, "Oh wow, what's that? It's a sparrow. What? Where? Really? Where do they come from? Well,
Wow.
depends on this particular, And people were connecting with nature in a way that they hadn't done before, and suddenly realizing how magical it was. I mean,
Yeah.
think about it. We've evolved over millennia. We're part of it, and we're related to it all. Yeah, and when we see it, particularly when it's at its best, whether this time of year, just going into a forest and seeing the trees and the leaves,
Oh,
in
isn't it?
spring,
It's
going out for a
absolutely
walk,
stunning.
seeing the flowers coming out, you
Yeah.
know, hearing a dawn chorus, watching a sunset, when
Yeah.
the swifts arrive in the summer skies,
Mm.
it's like I burst into tears. They're here, the
Yeah.
heralds of
They-
summer. And so, yeah, reconnecting with all that stuff after a career, in tech, powerful, powerful, powerful. And so realizing that it should be part of our lives on a daily, weekly,
Yeah.
monthly, annual basis,
Mm.
and trying to find a way to, and this wasn't the motivation. I just started writing, but I think if you if you pitch that in a sort of educational, teachy, preachy way, it might not land so well. If you fictionalize it a little bit,
Oh,
going for a walk
you
with a
get
pagan
this.
spirit,
Yeah.
yeah, then oh, we can have a bit of fun while and it's not greenwashing at all, is it?
No,
It's
no.
basically just it's celebrating
Yeah.
landscape and nature and season. So yeah, I don't know. Does that answer the
Yeah, no,
question?
it's a total celebration. That is exactly what it is. And I wonder if you could just share a little about the tools. So the kind of exciting resources that we feature in the back of the book as well.
Of course I can. Well, and I meant there's various rituals throughout the book, and
Mm,
there's a bit of a sort of like a foraging session. And then again, when I when I'd finished it and thought, okay, this is actually I'm happy enough with this for me to sort of stand by and do something with it. And I wanted to be independent. I wanted to be Lincolnshire, and that's how I found you guys. But then you were very keen for me to include the Lincolnshire lexicon, which we now have in the back of the book. So when when you first meet the Green Man, he's very broad Lincolnshire, and he's deliberately using obscure words like hablins and morpin, but then basically to encourage people to go to the back and and check out what these words mean. But then I don't use them because it's kind of like an author's conceit, really. I'm assuming at that point that Jack's and that Albert has learned the lexicon, and so I'm just using regular English to
yeah,
stop you having to go to the back all the time because that would
yeah,
be quite convenient. But you loved the idea of ritual and celebrating each of the seasons.
yeah.
Yeah. And so you nudged me back to my desk and we came up with the seasonal activity guide because
Wow.
again, this is a novella. It's only 20,000 words and it is pitched at a young adult
Mm,
audience and kids as well. And so, as parents, we're always struggling for
mm.
things for them to do, when
Being
it's these
entertained.
holidays.
Yeah,
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 so this is basically a sort of parental savior. It's like how to how to look what to do with the kids
yeah,
throughout the year. And so
yeah.
yeah, in spring you know, you can like whisper with buds, make a nature crown.
Mm,
At midsummer, you can make a herb braid. You can even do a sun circle dance. So,
yeah.
there's all kinds
Wow.
of little things that I put in there, a seasonal activity guide,
Mm,
with your suggestion. And I realized just how a powerful addition that was as well.
mm,
And then, just a little bit of stuff on, the kind of things you can forage for safely without, and potentially integrate into your cooking.
yeah. And
This time of year, walking around, the amount we've had because we've had 4 heat waves.
mm,
The bumper crop of berries and apples you
mm.
must have seen on the trees. It's ridiculous. I mean, we
Wow.
haven't had a bird
Yeah.
on the bird box in weeks because there's so
It's
many
all,
berries and fruit out there. So
yeah.
yes, there were these little add-ons as well, and then also where to find the Green Man
Mm,
in Lincolnshire churches because
mm.
he's
They're
um, he's
everywhere. Yeah.
visible everywhere
Mm,
over the entire country.
mm,
But yes, Lincolnshire's got its fair share of green men chiseled away
mm.
into our churches as well. So yes, and then the calendar, the wheel.
Yes. Yeah.
Easter comes from Ostara.
Yeah.
We often say have a cool Yule. Yule, maybe start to think about other ways of dividing the year up
Mm,
um, that other cultures have done historically, which might actually be a little bit more closer to the
mm.
natural
The
cycle of things. So
actual.
yeah,
Yeah.
all that.
Ah, it's all really, really good stuff. And if you're listening and watching this and just literally so intrigued to the point and you're thinking, yes, this is what I love, it's not just for children.
Okay,
Um,
thank you.
and and also please do, connect with Al, the Green Man. It is available. It is in all good bookshops, Waterstones, Amazon, and it's
Still can't believe
just
that.
out
Foils.
now. Foils, Barnes and Noble, Blackwell's, yeah, all of the good stuff. And this is it, and we're just getting started. And there's so much more to come as well. So we're very excited with how we are able to introduce Al to you all today. And you are available, as you rightly say, for speaking engagements, opportunities, book signs. Stockists were contacting you, and particularly with such a focus on the Lincolnshire area and a celebration of that culture, we're doing a really quite a spotlight on the county as well. So no, and yeah, and finally, if the Grain Man, I guess, could speak to our listeners today, what do you think he'd want us to hear?
Oh, crikey. I mean, I lost my Lincolnshire accent a while back. I've never really had one, to be honest. But I don't know. He would say, "Hey, old lad, where are you from?" I'd say, "Oh, yeah, I know it. Yeah, not far from the A15 or the river with them." Well, look, let's go for a walk. Where's your nearest wood? Brilliant.
Yeah, go there.
Get out, go there,
Yeah,
get some leaves, you
yeah,
know, okay, let's link technology with
yeah,
nature, right? Get your Merlin app. So
yeah.
if you're listening to a bird, you can just tap it and it'll go, oh, it's a chiff-chaff. Oh,
Oh,
it's a chiff-chaff. Ma'am, it's a chiff-chaff. Brilliant. Get your
yeah,
Merlin app and get out there and listen to birds, right? Get you the tree recognition app, yeah? Yeah, get the leaf and it'll just help you narrow down the leaf. Is it got serrated edges? Has it got five fingers? Boom, boom. Oh, it's an ash tree, ma'am. It's an ash tree. Just, get out there and explore it and start, on my mantelpiece here, I've got a collection of, and these are all things that have fallen off local trees and bushes. I've got, fir cones. I've got walnuts.
yeah,
I've got beech nuts. I've got conkers. And they're all just, and acorns, the big
yeah,
five, yeah. And, pick them up, smell them, yeah. Crush them, see what they smell like, make a little spiral out of them, just get out there
yeah,
and understand it and connect with it and sort of kneel before its power and worship it and protect it and preserve it. Get involved with like local walking groups, volunteer for the RSPB and your local forestry commission, all that stuff,
yeah.
and you'll meet loads of wonderful people. And if you're really lucky, out of the corner of your eye one day, peeping out from behind a gnarly old oak, you might even see the Green Man.
Beautiful. I don't think I genuinely could say it any better myself. So, on that note, I'll honestly thank you so, so much for joining us today. And it won't be the last. And we very much look forward to having another conversation with you very, very soon.
Thank you for making it easy and pleasurable to do so, Florence.
Thank you so much. Take care and bye for now.
Bye bye.